Good day, everyone. Today is another episode of health and safety topic that we will discuss today. Actually, this is a request by one of our students before. He was asking if we can again discuss what is hazards associated with working at heights. So allow me to identify a few of the common working at height related hazards. So the first that I know of is the fragile roof. Roof that are not designed to carry loads or not designed to for holding loads. So we have the tendency to underestimate this kind of structure. Of course, if there is a fragile roof, there is another hazard, the sloping roofs. So if it's greater than 10 degrees, this is a very dangerous situation for workers working in roofs. Another hazard associated with working at heights is the unprotected edges. When we create platforms or when people are working at heights, we don't take this into consideration. So we don't build barriers that would prevent people from falling the edges. Another one is the deterioration of materials. Okay, we don't consider this, especially if we are part of a demolition job of houses or structures. We think that the structure is still in good condition, but sometimes this leads to accident. What else? The weather is another criteria that needs to be considered in working at heights. Most of the time, people neglect the consideration of weather in their work activities. And last but not the least is the improper use of access, like the ladders used as an access. They are not secured properly, or they are not put in the right angle, or probably the scaffolding that we erect is erected in not a stable ground, or maybe we are positioning the mobile elevated working platform in unstable ground as well. So these are the hazards associated with working at heights. So now that we have discussed about the hazards, let's now discuss what are the factors that we need to consider in deciding what type of controls we need to implement in order for people to be protected from the hazards. Of course, when we are working at heights, we need to take into consideration the nature and the duration of work that we are going to do, that people are working at heights. So you have to understand what is nature and how long is the activity to be done. So with this, you will be able to identify the proper controls to be implemented. Okay. For example, if the work is a painting job of a wall, it will take a long time to finish the painting job. So of course, the right platform or the right control that you would implement is probably the use of a scaffolding rather than a ladder. Okay, so that's one example that I can give you. Another criteria that you need to consider in selecting and controlling hazards associated with working at heights is the people that you are going to use for the work. Though they have the right competence, though they have the right training, though they have the right knowledge, and of course, though they have the right experience in working at heights. So you have to take this into consideration. You cannot just simply select people that you would want to work in a height without even validating their level of competence. Okay. So I've mentioned about weather. Of course, you have to take that into consideration. Check the weather forecast of the day so that you will not put your people in bad position, okay, or in bad predicament when they're already on top of a structure and then all of a sudden it rains, or all of a sudden there's a sudden surge of bad weather. So you're putting your workers at risks. Of course, you need to take into consideration the proper supervision of the activity. So at the end of the day, supervision is still a requirement, especially for people working in critical kind of activities in heights. So supervision is a very, very important factor to consider. Apart from this is if we mentioned about the access, no, the suitable use of access. So this is part of the consideration. So you have to make sure that you put in place proper access for working at height. So the suitability of equipment that people will use. This consideration is the personal protective equipment. At the end of the day, these are the common controls that most of the time people are being protected from working at heights. No? So the use of personal protective equipment like fall protection or full body harness. So, and of course, the last but not the least that you need to take into consideration when you are implementing controls is you need to check whether the controls that you have implemented is compliance with the legal requirement in the country that you are working, or is it part of the policy that your company has written. So again, so these are the controls or the factors that you need to consider in selecting the proper controls. So I hope that this information is helpful, and I hope that you have learned something new today. So thank you for listening and have a good day.